I'd say the only thing I'm not totally happy with Cold Commands is it does set up a narrative thread which is left for the next book, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted the books to be self-contained. Cold Commands is self-contained as far as it goes, but it does leave this rather large thread hanging, and it's pretty much a point to saying, if you want to know what happened to these guys, you'll have to read book 3. I didn't want to do that, but there just wasn't a way to avoid it, and I didn't want to find myself with book 3 in the same position that I was with Cold Commands, of like, shit, where do I start? I wanted to give myself a launch pad this time.
Yeah, thank you. Now, do you have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, fire away, come on.
Come here. Yes.
Hello.
Hi there.
I asked Justina Robson the same question yesterday,
Right.
and I just think it's really interesting to see what people will say, so I'm going to ask you the same thing.
That sounds scary.
If you could design a T-shirt with a slogan on it, what would it say?
Oh man, there are a lot of those. There's one in Altered Carbon. There is the policewoman wears a T-shirt with "You have the right to remain silent. Why don't you try it for a while?" Which I really like, but unfortunately, unless you're a police officer, it kind of lacks the same impact. But I think I saw, when I was in Spain a few years ago at a convention, I saw someone wearing a T-shirt. Oh, it wasn't a T-shirt, it was like a sweat top, and it had written on it "Otra puta marca." And I really, for a while, actually thought about translating that into English and producing a couple of T-shirts with "another fucking bullshit brand" written across it. And I might still do those, actually. I might say I'm tempted to go for that. Yeah. So big T-shirt with something stylized and arty, and something that looks like L'Oreal or one of the big fashion brands with "another fucking bullshit brand" written across it.
That would be excellent, actually.
Yeah, well, do it. I don't have a license on it, so if everybody at the same time, it'll be like Naomi Klein's No Logo. It might actually take, I'd love to see that. I really would.
Would be excellent. Well, thank you.
No worries.
Hello?
Hi there.
I have a question about comics, because comics is like my thing, so...
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, you've written a couple of comics, like Black Widow and some other stuff, so I was wondering, would you ever consider, creating comics again, or maybe based on your own ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I am doing... in fact, I just finished a series of 6 comics as a tie-in to the Crisis game. They're coming out now. IDW have just issued the first of those. And that will be published as a graphic novel, I guess, towards the end of the year. It's again a 6-shot. I like comics a lot. I enjoy the medium. It's a lot of fun because you don't... the great thing is you don't have to polish your prose, because all of the descriptive heavy lifting is done by the artist. So all you've got to do is scrawl some notes and just go, this should be a really beautiful picture in which blah blah blah. So that's, for me, it's a relief to do that. I find it a lot of fun to create comics. They're fast, they're easy, slightly more social as well, in that you collaborate with your back and forth with the artist, talking about things. And also, I think generally speaking, the comic book ethos allows for a lot less realism. I mean, you can get away with a lot more in comics than you can in prose fiction. So that's nice because it loosens the bonds of what the stories that you want to tell, especially where science fiction is concerned. You get away with stuff that you wouldn't get away with in a novel. So yeah, I mean, I'm up for comic book work, and it's a question of finding the time and also finding a comic book house is interested in something I want to do, or as I say with Black Widow, Marvel actually came to me looking for me to do it. But that wasn't a wholly successful experience, the Black Widow. And I think the problem with the comic book world is the extent to which it's very regimented. In the West, this is anyway. It's very regimented by the expectations of a sort of very, very, how should I put this?
They have their idea about what the character is, right?
Well, they have. I think the problem is that it's like little kids that have been brought up on just only eating chips, and they won't eat anything else. And you've got the massive market that you have to play to if you want to make a good living from comics. And unfortunately, those guys are basically all they read is superhero stuff. And if it strays too far from a very basic template of that sort, then sure, you can sell it and the discerning few will buy it, but it's never going to have the successful impact that the superhero stuff does. And it still depresses me that if you go to a comic book review site or any of these websites that talk about comics, and you look at what's being reviewed, and habitually the first 10 things that are being reviewed have got some ancient either DC or Marvel character. It's a retelling of something about Batman, something about the X-Men, something about Black Widow or the Punisher, or there's this constant recycling of the same old brands. And I find that depressing, and not least because most of the really good work is being done elsewhere. It's being done by other writers. So there's that, and that I find it's a little bit depressing when you write stuff and you put it out there and it's totally, the bulk of the people who read it just don't get what you've been trying to do. And that's what happened with Black Widow, I think. I got some good reviews and there were some people who loved it, but the vast bulk of the people who were buying that Black Widow comic, they wanted Marvel-style cheesecake, tits and ass. And since that's not what I was giving them, they immediately went, oh, it's shit. And that's tricky. And unfortunately, that core demographic has such a stranglehold on the market. It's very hard to go anywhere interesting. So I mean, that wouldn't stop me, but certainly that's one of the things that makes me, see prose novel fiction as my main gig, because you have much more freedom. You've got the freedom to go out there and do whatever. And you've got a demographic out there, especially in science fiction, who don't mind. They'll read it because it's good and it's different and it's got something to offer, rather than going, well, where's my fucking Superman fix?
Sounds like you should be doing your own characters rather than working with other people's.
Well, that's a thought. I mean, I have given that some thought, maybe at some point. But I say at the moment, what with the novel writing and the games work, and thus now being a father for the first time, it's like finding the time to do all of that on its own is tough. So trying to add in a couple of a comic book sequence as well. Well, no way.
So we have another question here. So thank you.
Hi, Richard. We've actually spoken a little bit on the internet. I run Westeros.org, the Song of Ice Fire forum. We've spoken a little bit about your books on the site.
Sorry, I can't. Could you say that again and back up a little?
We've spoken a little bit on the internet. I run the Song of Ice and Fire forum at Westeros.org.
Yeah.
I'm known as Ram.
You're the man. You're Mr.
I'm going to ask a complete nerd question. Is the Cold Commands going to provide any more information as to whether Takovach is related to Takeshi Kovacs in any way?
Well, I don't want to issue too many spoilers here. He's back. Yeah, I mean, you'll see Takovach again. The Sky Dwellers are around, and you're getting a lot more of them. Let's say, but his role is somewhat minimal. I mean, I think for people who are fans of my other fiction, there'll be a few little Easter eggs in there. So yeah, you should be happy with that, I think.
Okay, I was actually going to ask also, I know in Market Forces, in Market Forces you have a kind of a joking, nodding reference to Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
Is that just for fun, or is it just something like, what the hell, I can do it anyways, or?
It's one of those things where because the thing is, when you're creating, well, I can only talk for myself, but when I'm writing, it is a fairly organic process, and so you're kind of writing along. And that case in point, that Market Forces quote, I was just writing the scene, where he's banged up in this cell, and they give him something to read, and it just flows from the moment. I just wrote out that the guy gives him some books, and then it just seemed like the right thing to do, and I just put it in there. And of course, it's nice to take the piss out of yourself. It's also nice, I think, that he himself is a character in a fairly unlikely world, but he's reading a science fiction novel and can't take it seriously. I thought there was a nice commentary on people who don't like sci-fi. And similarly, so these little Easter